I arrived at the family reunion, the venue I myself had paid for. The place was empty. Mom laughed and said, "It was yesterday, we'll bring you the leftovers." I didn't say anything, but the next morning the police spoke for me. I should have known something was wrong the moment I pulled into the parking lot. No familiar cars, no noise, none of my cousins smoking by the dumpsters and pretending nobody saw them. Just silence. I checked the message again. Friday 7 p.m. Casa Mateo Restaurant. Looking forward to seeing you all. Mom sent it 2 weeks ago. It was Friday 7:02 p.m. I was right on time. Like a fool I walked in, the cold air giving way to smooth jazz and the clinking of glasses. The place wasn't empty, but the private room I had booked and paid for was closed and dark. "Can I help you, sir?" the waitress asked, barely looking up. "Yes, the Torres family reservation? The private room." She checked the list. "Ah yes, that was last night." I blinked confused. No, it was tonight. I paid the deposit, made the reservation personally." She tilted her head doubtfully. "Sir, they were here. 16 people. There was a big cake. Your mother brought name cards. Are you sure you haven't gotten confused?" I laughed, a dry, clipped laugh that dies before it fully leaves your mouth. "No, I'm not confused." She paused, uncomfortable now. "Do you want to call someone?" I didn't answer her. I was already dialing. It rang twice before she answered. "Hey, sweetie," Mom said, her voice too light, too casual. "Everything all right?" I stared straight ahead. "Where is everyone?" A pause. Then that light chuckle she always used when she knew she'd messed up, but didn't want to admit it. "Oh honey, it was yesterday. We thought you weren't coming. But don't worry, we'll bring you the leftovers." I froze. "What?" She repeated it like it was nothing. "It was yesterday, we'll bring you the leftovers." I didn't even say goodbye. I just hung up. Nobody called back. Not Mom. Not Lucia. Nobody. Then a message arrived. "Lucia. Haha, seriously, you missed it, bro, typical. Don't worry, we saved you a bread roll." My hand was shaking from the cold, or the rage, I couldn't tell which. I looked at the waitress. "They came, they ate, they left." She shrugged. "They seemed to be having a good time." Of course they did. They always do when I'm not there. I left without saying another word. I didn't call. I didn't yell. I didn't write in the family group chat. But I didn't go home either. I stayed in the car, the engine off, staring at my reflection in the windshield, thinking about the bill, the charge on my card, the 10 unread messages I sent my mother 3 days ago to confirm the time. They all knew. They just didn't care. They made that decision together, and tomorrow I would make mine. You'd think being excluded from a family dinner you paid for would be the worst part. It wasn't. It was just the cherry on top of a 5-year-old bitter sundae. See, this wasn't the first time they'd left me out. It wasn't even close. It was just the first time they were honest enough not to pretend otherwise. I was always the last option. Growing up, Lucia was the brilliant one, the one who just needed a little push to get started. I was the one who didn't need much. That was their code for "he'll survive without affection, so let's not waste it on him." When I got my first real job, I called Mom proud. She didn't say congratulations. She said, "Great, now you can finally help your sister with the rent." That was the start. 1 month's rent became a whole year. Then came the bills. Then her dental surgery. Then car insurance. Then books for her new nursing course, which she dropped out of after 1 semester without ever paying me back. I paid because I thought that's what you did when you loved your family. But affection in my family only flowed one way. Every time I tried to mention it, even gently, I got things like, "Stop being so selfish, we're family. Lucia's going through a lot, you know that. You're better off than her. Why are you keeping track?" I wasn't keeping track. They just refused to see that I was being drained. I especially remember one night 2 years ago. I had just sent Lucia 600 euros for a veterinary emergency. Later that same day, she posted an Instagram story. New shoes, new nails, and some guy's hand holding a champagne flute. I showed the story to Mom. She swiped, smiled sarcastically, and said, "You men always get so petty about money." Petty. I paid their property taxes last winter because Dad forgot, and the city council sent them a foreclosure notice. I covered Lucia's minimum credit card payments for 6 months when she lost her job, even though I was barely staying afloat myself. One Christmas, I drained my savings to buy presents for everyone. And what did I get? A framed photo of the family. I wasn't in it. But nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to the night I overheard what they really thought of me. It was about 6 months ago. I was at my parents' house for the weekend. I just bailed Lucia out of another mess. This time 10,000 euros because she accidentally overdrafted again. I went downstairs for some water and heard voices from the living room. Lucia. He's obsessed with playing the victim. It's embarrassing. Mom, I know. He acts like some kind of savior just because he pays for a few things. Then Dad, laughing. Let him pay. He's not going to find a wife anyway. At least he's good for something. I froze in the hallway. Then Lucia, her voice dripping with arrogance. You know what? He thinks we'd fall apart without him. She scoffed. Please. If he disappeared tomorrow, I wouldn't even notice. I didn't go into the living room. I went back upstairs, lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. The next morning, Mom made pancakes like nothing happened. After that, I stopped sending money. For about 2 weeks. Then I got a message from Lucia. Lucia. Need help with the rent. I'll pay you back, promise. I didn't reply. 2 days later, Mom called. Mom. Lucia is behind on her bills. She's going through a rough patch. You know how sensitive she is. Why are you being so cold? I simply replied, I can't keep doing this. She said, if you're going to punish us for raising you, maybe we shouldn't have bothered. That broke me more than I acknowledged at the time. I sent the money later that day. And now, after all of that, they organized a family get-together without me. A dinner I paid for. Time I confirmed. And when I called Mom to ask where they were, she had the audacity to tell me, it was yesterday. We'll bring you the leftovers. Leftovers. Like a dog. Not like a son. Not like a brother. Just a wallet with arms. That night I sat in the car in front of Casa Mateo for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just sat there in that heavy, thick silence thinking about each and every time I had been the good guy, and how much it had cost me. Tomorrow I would not be the good guy. Tomorrow they would learn how it felt when I stopped playing my part. And I knew exactly where to start. That night I didn't sleep. Not because I was sad, not even angry. Honestly, I was doing the math. That dinner at Casa Mateo cost me 1,740 euros, tax and tip included. 16 people. Appetizers, customized menu. I even paid extra for Lucia's vegan nonsense and Aunt Maria's wine allergy accommodations. They didn't just forget about me, they knew perfectly well, and they did it anyway. The next morning I sent a message to the family group chat. See you all tonight at Mom's. 7 p.m. I have something for you. Nobody asked what it was. Of course they didn't. Nobody ever asked anything when it came to me. At 6:58 p.m., I pulled into my parents' driveway. Inside, they were already gathered. Lucia was on her phone. Dad was in his recliner with a beer. Mom was fluffing the sofa cushions like we were expecting company. She looked up and smiled. Hi, honey. We weren't sure if you'd still be upset. I didn't reply. Lucia looked up, feigning sympathy. You know we didn't do it to hurt you, she said. It was just easier for everyone to come on Thursday. Most of us have lives. She said that without a shred of shame. I placed a large envelope on the table. What is this? Mom asked. I sat down slowly, calmly. It's an invoice. Dad let out a scoff. An invoice? What for? For the dinner, I replied. The one you all enjoyed without me. Lucia laughed. Are you kidding? I am not. Mom narrowed her eyes. Seriously? You're trying to make us pay you back. No, I said, leaning forward. I'm giving you the opportunity. Because from now on, anything you want from me comes with an invoice. There was silence. Then Dad sat up straight. You need to drop this act, son. We're family. Right, I replied. Family. The same family that intentionally excluded me from a gathering I paid for. The same family that has drained me financially and emotionally for 5 years straight. Lucia rolled her eyes. Come on. Nobody forced you to pay. That was the moment something finally broke inside me. I stood up. You know what? Fine. Let's talk about what nobody forced me to do. I pointed at Lucia. Nobody forced me to pay your rent for 2 years, or cover your overdraft fees, or replace your car's transmission. I turned to Mom. Nobody forced me to pay your overdue taxes, or the cruise you wanted for your birthday when you said Dad had forgotten, or do your grocery shopping when you suddenly couldn't walk because of your knee. Dad's face turned red. Watch your mouth. Oh, this is just the beginning, I said, pulling a printed list out of my pocket. You don't want to hear it? Well, I do. Because I had to live it. And then came the surprise. I pulled out a folder and tossed it on the table. And what is this now? Dad asked angrily. I smiled. Documentation of every transaction, every bank transfer, every Bizum payment, every PayPal payment, every receipt. Lucia scoffed. Wow, you're really overdoing it. No, I said completely calmly. I'm protected. Because this morning I filed a fraud report. All of this, I tapped the folder, is already in the system. What are you talking about? Mom asked, her voice suddenly dropping. I looked her straight in the eye. Last week I discovered someone used my name to open a new credit card. The same one that paid for a brand new iPhone and a spa package Lucia posted about, saying it was a gift from a friend. Lucia froze. I called the credit card company. They're investigating it as identity theft. The address they were given? Yours. Lucia shot up. Are you joking? Not at all, I replied. And if you think I won't press charges, you wouldn't dare, Mom snapped. Try me. The room exploded in shouts. Lucia screamed. You're being so dramatic. Dad yelled. You want to send your own sister to jail? Really? You want me to keep playing the fool forever? I responded firmly. Mom burst into tears. You're destroying this family. No, I said, walking towards the door. I'm finally saving myself from it. And then came the second surprise. As I turned to leave, someone spoke for the first time. My cousin Lucas. The quiet one, the one who barely uttered a word at family gatherings. I'd like to pay my share, he said softly. Of the dinner, I mean. It's only fair. Everyone turned to him, stunned. He added. And I know I should have said something earlier, but yes, they plan to exclude you. I was there when they were laughing about it. They said you were too dramatic. I'm really sorry. I looked at him and for the first time that night I smiled. Thank you. Then I left. They thought they could use me forever, but they forgot one thing. Even the quietest of us eventually speak. And when we do, we don't whisper. We call the police. The next morning at 8:17 a.m. my phone vibrated. Private number. I answered. Good morning, is this Alejandro Torres? Yes. This is Officer Ramirez from the local police station. We're currently following up on a report of financial fraud concerning a credit card opened in your name. Your family is listed at the billing address. We'll be visiting the residence today to take statements. I was silent for a moment. Then I said, do you need me to be there? No, sir. You've already done your part. We'll handle it from here. I hung up the phone and sat in silence. For once, they would open the door and find someone they couldn't manipulate. This time I didn't have to speak. The police spoke for me. I thought silence would bring peace. Instead, it brought chaos. They say that when you remove the keystone of an arch, everything collapses. I wasn't the keystone. I was the whole foundation. And the instant I withdrew, their house of cards imploded. The police visit wasn't subtle. According to a very long, very angry voicemail from Mom, they arrived at 7:45 a.m., when she was still in her robe and Dad hadn't even had his coffee. 2 officers, a man and a woman, polite and professional but direct. We're following up on a report of identity theft. A credit card was opened in your son's name. It was used to make purchases totaling over 4,000 euros, associated with this address. We need to know who had access to it. Mom's response. There must be a mistake. We're a good family. Classic. They asked to speak to each person in the house. Lucia tried to leave mid-conversation, saying she had to work. The officers asked her to stay. She crumbled in less than 5 minutes. It wasn't even fraud. He always helps. I thought he wouldn't mind. Mom jumped in quickly. She's very stressed. It wasn't her intention. But it was too late. The officer wrote everything down, recorded it, and even asked to see Lucia's phone. That's when it got worse. They found messages from Lucia to a friend. Use my brother's info again. Spa day on his dime lol. I don't care, he's so naive he won't even notice. It wasn't just fraud. It was premeditated. And they had proof. That same day, I got the call from a detective assigned to the case. We have enough to formally press charges. Do you want to proceed? I asked him to give me a day. That afternoon my phone exploded. 27 missed calls. 41 messages. Mom. Alejandro, please, we need to talk. It was just a mistake. She panicked. She's still your sister. Dad. You don't want to ruin her life over this. Lucia. You selfish piece of shit. I'll lose my job. My apartment. Are you seriously doing this to your own family? Funny how nobody cared when I was losing pieces of myself to help them. I waited a day. Then I called the detective back. Can we put the formal charges on hold temporarily? He agreed but made something clear. This doesn't disappear. It just goes on hold. That's when Mom made her play. She called me, her voice smooth as silk over a blade. If you really want to fix things, come home. Let's talk face to face. Against my better judgment, I went. And the second I stepped inside, I regretted it. Lucia was on the couch, draped in a blanket, playing the victim. Mom had her concerned matriarch expression perfectly rehearsed. Dad didn't even get up. We just want to heal, Mom said. You want, I replied. We know you're hurt, but this is destroying the family. No, I replied. Lucia did that. Lucia's voice cracked. I didn't think you'd actually go to the police. Who does that? Someone you've pushed to the limit, I replied. Mom reached for my hand. Let's make this go away. We'll pay for everything. You don't need to involve the police. Funny, I said. Why didn't you offer that before they showed up? She snatched her hand back like I'd slapped it. Finally, Dad spoke. You're not perfect either. You think this makes you some kind of hero? I looked him in the eye. No. This makes me free. And then I left. Again. But this time for good. A week passed. I got another call from the detective. We received a payment covering the charges. It was marked anonymous, but it came from a joint account in your parents' names. Do you still want to press charges? I thought about it for a long moment. Then I said no, but I added, not this time. But I want this on record. If she touches anything in my name again, I want you to charge her. He agreed. I hung up. And just like that, I was done with them. No more money. No more guilt. No more walking into rooms where I was invisible until someone needed their phone bill paid. A fresh start. 2 weeks later, I moved out of the region. A small town in Andalusia. Quiet. A kind landlord. Rent that was half of what I was paying before. I spent my first weekend assembling IKEA furniture and listening to old music I hadn't heard since college. I went to the supermarket and bought what I wanted. I sat on my own sofa with a coffee and a book, and nobody knocked on the door asking for a handout. And for the first time in a decade, I understood. I wasn't responsible for anyone but myself anymore. But here's the unexpected thing. 3 weeks into my new life, I received a letter. Handwritten. No return address. Inside, a folded piece of paper and a check. The note said, I don't expect you to forgive me, but thank you for doing what I never had the courage to do. Lucas. The check was for half of the Casa Mateo bill. I smiled. He didn't owe me anything, but he got it. And the others? I never heard from them again. Not for my birthday. Not for Christmas. Not even when Dad had surgery later that year. I only found out from a Facebook post by a distant cousin. And you know what? Good. They'd finally learned what it was like to live without me. And I finally learned to live without them. People say blood is thicker than water, but they forget the second part of that saying. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. In other words, the loyalty you choose matters more than shared DNA. And I finally learned that the hard way. The last time I saw my family's faces was the day I walked out of that house with the folder in my hand and fire in my chest. Since then, not a word. And that silence. I used to feel it like a punishment. Now it feels like fresh air. A few weeks ago, I ran into someone from my hometown. A girl from high school. She recognized me in line at the hardware store. Hey, weren't you Lucia's brother? I paused. I smiled. No, just like that. No shame. No hesitation. Because I'm not Lucia's brother anymore. I'm not the good son. I'm not the bank. I'm not the one who shows up when everyone else disappears. I'm me. And for the first time in 32 years, that's enough. They thought I wouldn't survive without them. That I'd come crawling back. That I needed their version of love. Their emotional blackmail disguised as concern. Their control disguised as closeness. They were wrong. I don't need Sunday dinners where I sit in silence while they toast themselves. I don't need those "how are you" texts that are really just preludes to asking me for something. I don't need to explain to anyone why I changed my number, why I moved without a forwarding address, or why I never showed up for Christmas. Let them wonder. Let them agonize. Let them try to explain my absence to the rest of the family, to the neighbors, even to themselves. Because deep down they know. They pushed me out. And for the first time I didn't beg to come back. You want to know the best part? They lost control the very instant I stopped begging for affection and started demanding respect. Because people like that use the word family like a weapon. But the second you respond by setting boundaries, they call you cold, selfish, broken. But I'm not any of those things. I'm simply not theirs anymore. And Lucia? She didn't lose her job. She didn't go to jail. But you know what she did lose? Her mask. Now the whole family knows what she did. Hoe she liet. How she used me. How she laughed behind my back while bleeding me dry. And nobody trusts her now. Lucas moved out. Aunt Carolina refuses to let her babysit her kids. Uncle Esteban told me in a brief phone call. I didn't expect it, but Lucia's name is mud at every family event now. You don't need to come back, he said. They're the ones who messed it all up. Now we all see it clearly. But I told him the same thing I'll tell you now. It's not about who sees it clearly. It's about who survived. And I did. So no, I'm not going to pretend everything is okay. I'm not going to send birthday cards or answer guilt trip calls. I'm not going to show up for fake hugs and tense family dinners just so mom can make passive-aggressive comments about how hard it is to keep the family together these days. I'm not theirs anymore. And that's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Now I wake up and I feel peace. I work and I keep what I earn. I eat what I want. I don't apologize for saying no. I don't flinch when my phone vibrates. I don't hold my breath around people who claim to love me. I'm free. And not because they let me go, but because I finally stopped waiting for their permission. Let them have their leftover dinners. Let them pass around my picture like I'm dead. Let them whisper, let them plead. Let them yell, let them manipulate the story and call me the villain. I'll keep sleeping like a baby. Because the truth is very simple. When they closed that door in my face, I wasn't the one who lost a family. They were the ones who lost me. And that is the first debt they will never be able to repay.